please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up, by the way, we're being videotaped and sent out live. So first is two discussion topics. The first is 0 Horseneck Road, file number 26-003U. Request to determine the adequacy of a way to provide access to a parcel off of Horseneck Road at map 45, lot 8. Do we have somebody here for that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the board. For the record, Mike McVeigh, attorney, Markey and Walsh, New Bedford, Massachusetts. I have a PowerPoint if it's convenient at all for later, but I am here on behalf of the owners and applicants, Robbie Haynes III and Shauna Weckeser. They're a local couple. They live here in Westport. Robbie works at a family-owned business here in Westport. And we're here this afternoon to ask the board to determine that there is that the way has been in existence prior to subdivision control, and also that it is suitable for its intended purpose, which in this case is for a single-family house. Just some background on the property. It's been in the Haynes family since 1973. The intention was always to build someday a single-family house. The intention is not to subdivide the property or to some type of development. It is to build a single-family home with some, relative seclusion. Property has been through Concom to have its wetlands delineated. It has had a perk test, which was, the results were positive. When we talk about the way and why it's been in existence before subdivision control in 1953, I was able, with Greg Nicholas's help, I found 2 deed references, one going back as far back as 1836 in a deed from Wilson Wing to Luther Wing. And I have some excerpts on that plan on the PowerPoint. It's referenced again in exactly 100 years later in 1936, using similar language, but it references the prior granted easement from the Wing deed in 1836. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And then this way is, the way is shown, all throughout, the 20th century, but prior to 1953, the way was shown on a USGS quadrangle map that was surveyed in 1939 and between 1939 and 1940, revised in 1951. If you go 2 more ahead, I apologize. One back, please. This is the 1836 deed. I tried to clean it up as best I could using some Photoshop-ish tools. Transcribed it at the bottom. And then and 100 years later, please, in 1936. Now, these 2 deeds are conveying a 3.5 acre parcel, which is today, I think, parcel 45-10, which is owned by Mr. Guptal. It's a wooded parcel. It's about 3.5 acres in size. If you go back one, I'm sorry. So I did the best I could with the quadrangle is a 4-part map. And instead of just dumping it like I tried to do originally, I zoomed in. This is an excerpt from 1951, the revision. It shows the unimproved way you can see the elevation lines, and you can see the bump out, which still exists today. Sorry, if you go forward one. This is from a recent just snippet from Mass Mapper, so that's on the ground today. I didn't have the ability, to sort of overlay the two, but I did the best I could. As you can tell, this is the Haynes' 10-acre piece right here, and if you go back and forth, you can see. I'm sorry, you can see that the unimproved way would go right through it, and that's consistent with the maps and the plans that have been provided subsequently, including the one that Mr. Nicholas did in 2024. So I think it's clear from the deed references and from the map and the plan that this has been in existence. Now, a house was built along the way in 1935, which will come up in a moment. It's actually pictured right here. This is a photograph on the way, looking eastward. You see the yellow building in the center of the screen? That is Mr. Guptal's house at 98 Old Horseneck Road. That building was built in 1935. Later on, another slide I'll show. Actually, would you mind going ahead one? I'm sorry. Thank you. And then again. So I'd like to focus on this. So when we talk about consistent with its intended use, which in my clients, they only intend to build a single-family home. From what the best I could tell, about 100-ish feet away from their property line is Mr. Guptal's house. Again, on the left, on the middle, that is the main house that was built in 1935. Okay, that alone doesn't create the precedent, according to town council, that the way was in existence. That's fine. This building to the left was an additional roughly 800 square feet of new construction that was done in 2007. So obviously there is some inclination to consider this way passable and usable for residential use. And then it's worth noting that Mr. Guptal, generous guy, friends of my clients, has generously donated a large portion of his backyard to Habitat for Cats, where they have several different, I'll call it sheds, but it's basically a feral cat sanctuary for folks in the greater New Bedford area to come and bring cats. When you search for this stuff online, they thank Mr. Guptal, and they're always looking for volunteers to come down the way to deliver cats or to whelp. Mr. Guptal, it's worth mentioning, is in his 90s. He's very elderly. Lives in the home alone, I believe, right? So he still drives up and down the way. Again, it's just about 100 feet across another parcel to my client's property. And I think it's ahead further in the slides, but I think it bears mentioning now that he is regularly serviced by Win Waste. So big trash trucks come down the way every week to service his property, as well as a propane company. I guess, can you go back one, please? Mm-hmm. So when we talk about the width, grade, and construction, the width begins, over 16 feet around the entrance, and it narrows as it approaches my client's parcel. The grade is consistently flat and even, and it's constructed by crushed gravel and dirt. It narrows as it approaches and enters into my client's property, and these are.
Does that show old stone walls on both sides of the way? Correct.
Along a portion of the way,
yeah.
Right. And when I took a trip with Mr. Haynes a few weeks ago, I got as far as the snow would allow, but in my view, and I think Dia has been on the property and maybe she'll speak to it, but it's completely flat. When I visited, there were volunteers, or let's call it the public was visiting Mr. Guptal's house in some capacity. So it's regularly traveled. Can you go forward, please? Mm-hmm. And then the remainder of the slides are just there's 3 plans which sort of, when you look at them, they conjoin, they show the way as it approaches. This is the most recent site plan that was performed by Mr. Nicholas, South Coast Engineering. It shows the way, if you don't mind just going forward once. This is if you take a second, you step back, this was a recorded plan that was recorded and made in 1981 that shows sort of the entirety of the way, right? So it travels through the Wilcox property, Smith property. This right here is Mr. Guptal's house that we just spoke about. And this bump right here, an entrance into my client's property, if you go back one here, is this exact bump here. Okay, so, you know, when we talk about buildability, obviously there's a lot area that's been satisfied here. I believe with the wetland delineation, there's enough space on the property to build a modest single-family home. And if this board determines that this way is adequate, it would have enough frontage on the ancient way. And that's essentially what we're here tonight to talk about. As far as I'm aware, he has complete support. My clients have the support of all the neighbors, including the Wilcox folks who own that big parcel to the west. And I think the only other slide that we haven't seen is the 1980 plan. This one right here. This is just the same thing as the 19. It's a little more confined than the 1981 plan. I'm happy to take any questions from the board.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could you go back and show 2 or 3 slides? Yeah, that one. Attorney, could 2 questions. One, does the way pass through this lot, and could it serve other lots to the east of this lot? That's one question. And the second one is, can you, on this map, point out where the single-family home would be built, and again, where Mr. Guptal's house is, just general?
If it's okay,
Yeah.
I can answer the first question, no
Yeah.
problem. It passes through the way right here, as the northeast, south.
Yeah.
And Mr. Nicholas here, who generated the map, can speak.
What was your second question, John? I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you could show where the single-family house would be built, where Mr. Guptal's house is. Okay. And then my question, does the way serve any other lots to the east of this lot? Would there be traffic on this lot going to the east, you know, for another lot?
You talking?
Yeah, right there.
Land trust land?
Yeah.
So I don't think they're gonna build anything over here.
Okay.
This does continue, I've never followed it all the way out, but I believe it actually goes out to, which would be Division Road.
Oh, wow.
I'm not really sure. I think you were just back.
I did see a reference that I didn't want, that talks about, it connects between Old Horseneck and Division.
Wow.
Okay. Lloyd Guptal's house is here. The
Yeah.
assessors maps aren't really close to what this.
They're not even
property looks
close.
like. Stone walls all around here. And the second piece they talked about, we briefly mentioned, the wood lot is back up here somewhere.
Correct.
So the area that he would build would be right around here. There's wetlands this way and there's wetlands back over here. So it's a path you have in here. It's going through an ANRAD, and I'm sorry I don't have that plan here, but there's a wetland line here, and the area in the middle would be sufficient for.
So how would he get access then to the house? I assume he's not going all the way to the
No.
east end of the lot.
So there's a proposed easement, Mr. Bullitt.
Yeah.
Right, and there's also a deed which the owner of this property gave Mr. Haynes basically unlimited rights to use his property to access his land.
Correct.
We wanted to find this over here because eventually the utilities and whatnot would be a little bit more restricted.
So the way that's, the east half of the way really isn't going to be used by, for access.
Correct.
Or anything else, it's just a legal way.
That's exactly-
They're providing you frontage.
That's exactly
But
it.
you're not using the frontage.
That's not the plan, correct?
Yeah, gotcha.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, I've just got sort of along John's line, but I'm also having trouble putting together all the pieces of the puzzle because you have these various, I thought, first of all, you were referring to the, you've got some maps of a 3.5 acre parcel that go with the 1836 deed, right? And then there's the 1936 deed, which also referred to the 3.5 acre parcel. Where is that superimposed on this 10 acre parcel?
So that parcel is right up here, and where this branches out, I believe is right about here. It would be about here. The 3.8 acre,
Yeah.
3.5 acre parcel has historically been tethered, and today is still owned by Mr. Guptal. And it's been that way for a long
So
time.
that has nothing to do with where they're trying to, with this lot. It's just to demonstrate that the way.
The way it had been in existence and in the conveyance of that 3.5 acre parcel,
Yeah.
it had been referenced.
Well, it'd be helpful if you had a one plan that showed that, showed the houses, which the bullet was asking about. But, yeah.
At the time, the way to reference in the 1836 deed was a Luther wing to,
Wilson Wing did Luther Wing.
No,
and they owned both sides of that. So when he conveyed one of the wings, and I forgot who was who, it's written down here somewhere, he conveyed these two pieces out to a family member. He afforded him the right to use his access through his land. So that's why when you're talking about the reference to the 3.5 acre piece, you're correct, it has no bearing on this. But in 1836, it was all one piece in one family, the Wing family, and he conveyed, one person named Wing conveyed to another family member these two pieces and afforded him the right to use this way.
but the way that you're illustrating here doesn't touch, or doesn't enter this lot up there.
Yeah.
Okay. But as you were asking.
So it gives them legal frontage,
Yeah.
but that's not what they're using for access to the lot.
Yes, so you're gonna come off of that way, I can't see, but there's some red line right in that.
Yeah, this is the location of a proposed easement, and
Oh.
like Greg said, there is a very general permissive easement that's been granted prior from Smith to Haynes, his father Haynes,
Yeah,
and his successors. So we put this on here as sort of an illustration of where they're actually going to be pulling off and driving into the property.
and then one last thing, so that gravel, crushed gravel lane that you showed with the two walls, those photographs, that condition exists at this point where you're gonna have an easement coming into
It will.
to this buildable area.
It will.
And it exists all the way out to Old Horse Neck in that condition. A level graded crushed gravel roadbed.
Not quite.
If your question is does it exist today? No, it does not. If it will, it will.
So I am a little confused. So the lot that you're saying is Guptal is a triangular lot north of this boundary by
So
a couple hundred feet.
this is Mr. Guptal's lot right here. This is
Right.
Mr. Guptal's building lot,
Right.
which we saw the pictures of.
And it's not 3.5 acres, it's
No.
52,000 square feet.
Right, but he also owns the 3.5 acre piece that's up here. But that's just wooded.
Where?
It's not on.
Yeah, the assistant architect.
Okay, I found it. It's not touching that lot, but it's further east.
Correct.
And I don't think it touches this proposed roadway either, does it?
No, there's a fork. There's a fork in the road. If you go back to my plan, you see that.
Yeah, so it's that square piece up there.
This is what's shown as a triangular piece on the assessor's map. It doesn't look anything like a triangle, whatever. This, I believe, is the actual road that goes up to the
The other one.
Guptal piece. There's a fork in the road.
So the references in the two older deeds that you showed us is for the stated purpose of collecting wood, basically.
All right.
It says in the deed. And but you've also said that
And anything else that
you're
is,
going to use for the intended purpose, and that's not a stated intended purpose. And on the older topographic maps, it shows, I think, the part of the road that has the walls, and then it has beyond that just a dotted line. And I don't know how that really describes a road, except for like a farm path to get to the woodland, to collect wood. And so maybe you can explain to us how that enables you to say that it's an ancient way, in a way in existence.
right, so just to be clear, the 1836 deed says to pass and repass at all times for the purpose of getting off wood and timber and anything that is wished to be taken. So to me, that is more expansive than just timber. But when we talk about a deed reference which makes reference to an existing way at the time, I'm not aware of any use restriction, I guess, that's put on to the reference. So if at the time, 1836, if the use, was to cart off wood or any other minerals or anything, I don't know if that's instructive or it holds us to the use that we're looking for in 2026. Obviously, in 1935, this way was sufficient to build, an 1,800 square foot home.
So, I mean, if the town made a mistake in the past, doesn't mean they have to keep making the same mistake.
And then
So-
in 2007, they allowed an 800 square foot, detached two-story barn. And then I guess they're allowing a pseudo-commercial habitat for cats sort of operation to proceed that's right across the way.
So, but you still haven't convinced me that it's an ancient way, so how do you do that? And this way only goes to the Guptill property, the square feet, from a fork in the road. And we have some pictures of the road beyond the stone wall part. And it's really, I wouldn't call it a road, it looks like a path.
Go ahead.
All right, I appreciate what you're saying. I think I can shed some light on this. Okay, so we have an undeveloped piece of land here in 1930. So subdivision control comes into Westport in 1957.
Yeah.
So there's this house here and it's completely landlocked. And it's being serviced by this laneway. That gravel laneway, I would say, ends around here, okay? Over this way, it's essentially a car path. You can follow it, but would you get a car through? No. So, to address your concern, the house was built here in 1935, a landlocked piece. That would establish that it's a way in existence prior to subdivision control. It's not an ancient way. Ancient ways would be a dedicated piece of, a dedicated way that the town was forced to accept,
Right.
okay? That's by 1849, and essentially it would be a public way. That's not what we're saying. So the fact this house was built here in 1935, completely landlocked, and it has access to get here, when a road was constructed roughly up to this point, would be my argument that it is a way in existence prior to subdivision control. Now, whether or not it's suitable for future development, that's up to this board to decide. It had to be improved, but I would argue that yes, it was in existence at least up to this point, for servicing this house that was built prior to subdivision control.
Any more questions?
How far is it from the Old Horse Neck Road to this point where you intend to access the lot?
I'd have to look,
How
but
many feet?
do you mind going to the 1981 plan?
Yeah.
just, is there any issue with being a dead end, considered a dead end lane?
Well,
And-
they're not suggesting that they're gonna build a road, so they're saying that it exists already.
Well, yeah,
So, and then the question of where they get the frontage, and I guess they get it because the cart path crosses the corner of the lot at the northeastern corner. How much frontage, how much potential frontage do you get from that crossing?
Over 150, well over 150 feet. I'll have to get you the answer to the distance.
So is this way, what you're suggesting is a way in existence, going to provide frontage for Mr. Guptill's other lot? The square
No.
one?
No.
And are there other landlocked pieces up there that are gonna claim frontage on this?
Well, like Mr. Nicholas said, the Westport Land Trust owns a lot of land in that area.
Beyond, but up through, does the way go through Mr. Guptill's other lot?
I did not research that.
Can I answer that, actually?
Yeah, if you could come up and identify
Yes.
yourself.
I believe if you go to the GIS map, all the parcels of property that lane will continue to run through this way, all the way to Division Road, are actually all trusted to the land trust.
What is that, what is that?
So I think it goes through here, and then goes to this parcel, and then actually, I believe that that is also, right there, is a reference to part of the way that eventually
Goes
continues
to
through.
Division Road.
And then there's already, I believe, buildings on the Division Road side,
Yeah.
so
So,
there wouldn't be any
but
further.
Mr. Guptill's square lot up there, one of the branches is going through there.
We haven't measured the frontage on his actual lot. We
Yeah.
can't confirm
But
that.
then,
And there's other lots around Guptill's lot?
I believe that those are all trusted to the Westport Land Trust. I think you can look at the,
That one is, and the one below that is,
yep.
that one, both land trust.
And then I believe that either, I don't know if it's this one or this one, but it's also trusted, land trust.
These three. This one is somebody else.
Somebody else.
Yeah. Okay. Chickadilly.
Thank you.
And do you know the status of the one that's owned by Jane Ravello? The one to the west of the square lot?
She has a single, I know she has another piece of land locally to that where she has a single family home, and we don't know the status of the small lot.
So in the interim, is the planning department have a,
So I saw you all looking through the updated memo that I had sent out, which includes the pictures of the way. So just as a recap, the applicants are requesting the board's determination of the adequacy of the way to provide access and frontage for lot buildability. So up until the proposed easement, let me put up the map. Up until the proposed easement, the way has adequate construction, somewhat suitable grades, and sufficient width to provide for the needs. But once it hits this easement, the easement does not have sufficient width, construction, or grade. And you can see that in the photos I've attached. The first 3 photos are pictures of the easement. One out during a rainy day, and it's got some ponding, and then one on a drier day. You can see there's no crushed gravel put down or anything. So staff recommends that this easement, A, be recorded, and then B, brought to rural residential lane standards for a graveled roadway, which asks for a traveled way width of 20 feet and 15 inches of compacted gravel. Staff also talked with the fire department, and the fire department asks that the easement be at least 14 feet wide, and recommends a construction of a hammerhead or a wide turnaround for fire department access. So the fire department expressed some access concerns, but feels like if the road is brought up to standards, it'll be sufficient. And then, yeah, planning staff finds that while the way does provide frontage here as it crosses the property, it would need to be upgraded to rural residential lane standards to provide sufficient access. As it stands right now, it does not provide sufficient access.
Can I ask a question to you?
Yeah.
If you bring the part of the driveway that's on this map
Yep.
up to standard,
Yep.
the long driveway that you need to traverse to get to this,
Yeah.
how wide is that?
I think at its widest, they said they're measuring up to 16 feet, and then it tapers to about 10 when it comes to this easement.
So the reason I'm asking is, it doesn't seem to me to make sense to have something at the end of the driveway wider than the whole driveway you've got to drive on. So if you can drive on that long driveway from Horse Neck Road, then, and I think your point is that that road has been deemed acceptable in 1936 before subdivision. And therefore, I'm just wondering, are we trying to make the last 5% of this driveway different or bigger than the first 95% of the driveway?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I said, the fire department asked for 14 feet,
Yeah.
so I feel like that might be more in line with what the existing conditions of the graveled roadway look like, just 16 feet to 14.
So Tia, what you're saying is, in your suggestion in the report, was to upgrade just that section
Yes,
to the rural residential requirement?
yes.
Or the whole thing to Horse Neck?
I was thinking just this section because previous from this easement to Horse Neck, it's sufficient. But if the board would like the whole roadway improved, that can also be part of the motion too. But I agree with John's comment that maybe it can be upgraded just to at least be the width of the graveled roadway when it meets the easement and not be a reduction to 9 feet because
But
9 feet is not wide
But
enough.
the base should comply.
Yeah.
So, and the rest of the road that goes around and comes and gives them frontage?
I haven't been able to see it. Based off the deed references and the exhibits shown by the legal team, I found that it was in existence prior to the subdivision control law, so I find that it could provide legal frontage, but I don't feel that if they used it for access as well as frontage, I don't feel that this northwest corner would be sufficient for access, just frontage.
Mr. Chairman, the difficulty I have with this is that it's not a public way, so we can. Well, I have two issues. If this is an existing landlocked parcel, and they're not trying to subdivide it, so that puts it in a little different category. But for us, if this were a subdivision, we can only allow the division of land on public ways, ways that were shown on created under the Subdivision Control Act, and ways, in the opinion of the board, meet standards for adequacy. And when I look at this, the frontage that they're claiming is way down on that end of the road, which gives them the frontage on the way that they're saying is adequate. And I don't know what that looks like, but I think it's just a cut road in the woods.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yeah, and the fact that they're building at the other end where the road looks more between two walls, you know, the road that has the two walls on it and it's serviced by trash trucks for the house and everything, they don't front on that. They front on the piece that's a cut road in the woods.
They don't front on it legally, but their access will be on, depending on how they build that easement, will be on the road that the trash trucks and everyone else uses, right?
Why is this before us?
I think the issue is they're unable to get a building permit.
Right.
And I think, I don't want to speak for them, but I assume that they've been sent to the planning board to get a determination whether or not this way is adequate. And if they have legal frontage. So I guess the other question, just for everybody's knowledge, for a building lot, for subdivision control, you have to have 150 feet of frontage and 60,000 square feet of area. I don't know if you need that for a lot that's existing.
Right. It's not being subdivided.
It's not being subdivided. We're not creating a lot. So do they need the frontage for a building permit? I don't know the answer to that. It's never come before us before. So,
Well,
I don't know.
if I may, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, this situation, not exactly this, but happened in the neighborhood I live in Attleboro, where folks had to go over the adequacy of legal frontage and ultimately achieved, they did get it through where I live, and that wasn't ever used. They have a practical access through a different part of a different road, which they didn't have frontage on. So, but what you mentioned a moment ago about we're just here to achieve legal frontage, that's exactly it. And the practical frontage, is right there and can be improved and tied into what's already, a very well-traveled, very relatively improved way.
So is the building inspector, the zoning enforcement officer, denying the building permit on the question of he doesn't know if we have legal frontage, or if we don't know if we have adequate way to get there?
So I would say it's the former, it's the first. I presented a version of what I'm presenting tonight to him originally. He said he had some problems with how reading the old deeds, and so did your town council. I went back and I tried to clean it up, and I talked to, really right off the bat, I talked to Mr. Burris, who was extremely helpful, and he advised me that eventually we would be in front of you folks here. So I think that was a necessary step being here. But the fact that he denied, just to answer your question, he denied for lack of explanation as far as legal frontage. He couldn't
See it.
He couldn't read the deed. Yeah.
And I think we have the same questions. The question is, we're going to have to make the determination. So, John?
Couple of things. One, the roadway that would be constructed is, as I understand it, that short easement that comes down, which The easement shows 22, almost 23 feet at the southern end and 26.5 feet at the northern end width. And that connects to an existing way that is well-traveled. And so I'm thinking that easement provides enough width to gain access, not frontage, but access to where they want to build the house. And when I look at the idea of building a single-family home at this location on a 10-acre lot, I think that is a use that enhances Westport. Do you like cats? There are a lot of cats. And, but, you know, you're going to be neighbors to a 90-something-year-old man, which I think is a good thing, because otherwise he's kind of isolated. And so I don't have a problem with what they're trying to do. I guess the question is whether we can differentiate between access and frontage. I think it would be a shame if the cart path got improved all the way, because right now it's a cart path through the woods.
That would be silly.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that.
So the question is, with that easement connecting to a well-traveled way, do they have access to this 10-acre lot to build one
Yeah,
house?
I don't think the access is really the issue. The issue is it's coming down to the frontage. And does that car path, I assume, Greg, you surveyed that, if you have it on the plan?
I understand your question. For what it's worth, and it's a different location, but I know of one lot that we surveyed off of Drift Road, and it crossed about, I want to say about 1,000 feet of wetland. Frontage is on Drift Road, but the access comes off of System Farm Lane. I think we talked about this very briefly. So thinking that way, they have access, usable access off a different road. Qualifying frontage is on a different road. So I was kind of looking at this the same way. I think the issue of frontage is a determination that's going to have to be made, even though it's kind of walked away from it by the building inspector, whether or not he's going to issue a building permit. Is this something that this board generally deals with? I thought it was just a way itself, whether or not it provides adequate access.
Well, I guess my question to you is, you know, you're going to get there, you're going around the wetlands.
Mhm.
That's why that little lot is the way it is, because they have to get around, stay away from the wetlands, which is to the southeast of that. And that's why it goes way up and comes back down. But does it actually exist where you're saying it exists? And have you been out there and surveyed it? And does it look the same pathway all along?
Yes.
Or is this wishful thinking?
No, I actually went up to survey it. I can tell you, you're talking about earlier about the stone walls. There's beginnings, you know, like they started to build stone walls all along this and never really finished it. It's very easy to follow. You can walk through here, you can see this is definitely an old way going through here. I'm talking a deer. There's a big stone over here. Don't ask me how it happened. There's a sawing machine sitting on top of it.
A sewing machine?
Yeah, it's kind of a strange thing to find out in the woods. But I did physically go survey this, and we actually started going up this path, which is not shown on any of the plans, thinking, where is this going? And then, so that's the wrong one. We started going this way, and that's how it came out. And it's easy to follow. You talked about the wetlands. This doesn't go, this area here, this cart path goes right through wetland. There's actually a small stone bridge that you go over.
Okay, Dan, can you bring up the one that's on page 20?
Page 20 of the packet, you said?
Yeah.
Is this what you wanted? This is page 20.
It doesn't look like it. Let me squeeze it down. It's a topographic map. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay.
So if you could squeeze it into the lot, or where the, yeah, right there.
Here it is.
And come in, you're right in the center, so come in further. And come in. So you see the road with the walls, I believe, is the one that shows up as the road going east.
Yep.
And then it starts to dot. So where is the lot?
I think this is the same, what you're asking about right here.
Yep.
This is the same bump, I believe, that's shown on Greg's plan. So the lot would be about yay big here.
So it's south of that pond.
South of the home.
And when it turns south, it's now coming onto the parcel.
And did you say it continues, did I hear you say it did continue east to Division Road at one time?
I didn't survey it, I did see it in some of my research that references to going to Division. I had seen a reference in something that I took today that said it connects Horse Neck to Division.
Well, this shows that it almost gets to it at elevation 123 to the right.
Stops, yeah. Could that presumably be improved all the way through?
From Division?
Yeah.
I think it goes through somebody's yard, but you can see there's houses, there's a house right on this old map, there's a house right where it comes in. But
But I mean, you could buy that lot and tear the house down and build. Could you, my question is, can you improve this way, this ancient way, to a subdivision standards, or to a town standard?
I think the big piece of property to the east of theirs is land trust land. So I think this goes through land trust land, so it can't be developed. At least I think most land trust land can't. But
You know, Mr. Chair, I think the board is ill-equipped to make legal determinations. And I am mindful of, it's Westport, and we have people that have mile-long driveways, and but some of those exist for a long time. So I mean, if the building inspector is asking us for a legal opinion, I don't think we can give legal opinions. If he's asking, then I guess the question is, he's asking for a road, for us to make a judgment about a road that doesn't exist. That is, the thing that will be built inside the 22-foot easement, is that adequate? Right now, it's woods. It's not a road. I suppose we could condition that if it met fire trucks, fire department standards or something. If we, I mean, I'd like like to help the people. I don't know if we have any ability to help the people.
But I have a question. From Mr. Guptill's driveway to where you're gonna, I assume that's where the easement starts to this lot. How far is that?
80 feet.
It's a stone's throw, yeah, it's not very far. In fact, we currently use it, it just naturally was there from the past people using it. And you can turn trucks around. In fact, the Habitat for Humanity cat sanctuary, they park down there while they're visiting Guptill and tending to cats. And oftentimes we have to move cars around just to, because they just park kind of in the open, but they actively use it as extra parking area.
So I guess it still comes down to, do we decide that the path is on their property and that is sufficient for us to determine that there is frontage on a way in existence? Or a way that used to exist? I don't know. But so Michael's talked to town council about this or not?
We haven't sent it. Would you like me to make the request?
Yeah, I'm sort of going back to what Bob just stated, and the ones of making a legal determination here, I'd like to have the benefit of our town council's input.
Yeah, if I may. All I can share from previous correspondence, I have correspondence from the town council before. He disagreed with a few of my points, but the thrust of it was he couldn't read, he agreed with Ralph, he couldn't read the deed, and he, but he made clear in bold that, you know, that what we're asking for could be conditioned in relation to the proposed use of the land. He put that in bold. And then he went on to speak about, you know, deed references and how they are, case laws accepted them as existing. But in my view, I think this board could make that determination, you know, either way. I think you're well within your power to make the determination.
So I think it's not a legality, it's a question of, do we consider this cart path a former ancient way? And that, I'm sure there's a multitude of case laws about this kind of stuff. The problem that we also have is if we make a decision, there's a myriad of lots that have no access, no frontage in Westport. And there's all kinds of farm paths through the woods, and how do you determine? And basically, you know, I've read stuff that says, well, if it was on an old map that the town had, then it's an ancient way. But I'm sure this was not.
This is right up through 1977.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about 1700, 1800, stuff like that.
Well, you've certainly got if I may, you certainly have it referenced on a plan, on a USGS map that was surveyed in the 30s. But
Yeah, but because it's an old plan, I have it in front of me, the USGA. I really can't see where this lot really falls. And does that dotted line cross the corner of the lot?
I mean, I would take the view that that shape, that curve, that mirrors the same curve that's in existence today that Greg personally surveyed. And just to, maybe not to belabor the point, but I would say to any folks out there that may have a cart path, this board is always, it's a case-by-case basis, and those applicants would have to do the deed research and the plan research.
Mr. Chair, I wonder if we might make a ruling with some conditions that said that based on the reference in historical deeds to this path, that we determine that this path provides legal frontage, but that determination is conditional on this being used as one lot for one house, and access being provided as shown in the map, so that the cart path is not developed. It's frontage, but it should not be developed. And so I don't know if we can make that finding, and whether that would allow Ralph to say, okay, that's what I need. And then what you're securing as the conditions are two things. One, that the cart path does not get developed, and two, that the 10 acres doesn't get subdivided.
I don't think we can make a determination that the cart path provides legal frontage. But I could see a way to say, to have a condition that if they build the easement and it's 14 feet and it's gravel and it has a T turnaround at the bottom for fire trucks and all that kind of stuff, we could determine that thing. If they did that thing, it would be adequate to have one house on 10 acres. That I think we could go there, but I don't think we could.
So if we did that, would that be adequate for Ralph?
Oh, it may not.
Yeah,
It, it does not answer the question. The basic question he's asking is this a building lot because it doesn't have any frontage on anything?
Right.
And we're gonna make, so now we're gonna say that cart path in the woods, when you look at some of the photographs, it's really just really a cart path in the woods, and it's got water standing in its ruts, and
No, I agree. So I guess I would entertain a motion to do what you suggested, and let them see if that would be adequate for Ralph. And say we have no problem with them building a one-family house, one on the lot with no other houses. And say that obviously it had been determined that it's a way in existence up to 100 feet from your lot. And you're going to improve the access to the lot to the same standard.
Dave, pull up the plan that shows that easement. I don't, I mean, there's nothing before us that says, oh yeah, they have a right to that easement, and we don't know who's granting that easement to them. None of that's before us, so this idea that, oh yeah, well that's all okay. I don't, as I sit here, I don't know that it's okay.
May I?
Yes.
Today exists deeded rights, very general, very permissive easement between the Smith property, which would be burdened by that specific easement, and the Haynes family. So that exists today. What we would probably try to achieve is to get a more specific, which I don't imagine would be an issue because they're friends and this already exists, a very general easement. But if the question is, I don't know if there is an easement today right now. I have a copy of it right here that allows ingress and egress over the Smith property to gain access to the Haynes property.
So I think we need to upgrade the easement to.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's two lines.
The
in a row.
ability, yeah, right,
In the woods.
the ability to upgrade the easement to the same standard as the rest of the road. With the same dimensions of the way in existence up to that point, but with the details of our base material for a gravel road.
Understood.
Does this plan have a title? What are we referring to?
This was a site plan of land and easement.
But this is not recorded, right? This is not a recorded
It's not
plan.
recorded.
Yeah. It was drawn for this.
Say again, sorry.
It was drawn for this application.
I don't know why it was drawn. It came along with the ANRAD plan.
That was just a plan showing proposed easement.
Okay.
There's a survey plan of the entire land, I just added that easement to show this is where the driveway and utilities and whatnot would go. Bearing in mind, it was a generic easement to say you can go all over the property to get there.
And Greg, this is a 81X, this is an existing lot line plan?
81, I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, yes, yeah, it would be the same thing.
Yep.
Because I don't believe that property was ever surveyed besides the notes that are on that plan, 17 something or other. There are monuments out there. And the side that's owned by Wilcox is actually the registered land plan that you found.
Mr. Chair, I'll offer a motion that, and you, if the easement shown on, in dear, you have to fill in whatever that title of that plan is. If the 22-foot wide easement shown on plan, you fill in the reference, were to be developed with a gravel way connecting to, as shown, to the existing gravel way, that the board would determine that provided adequate access for a single home.
Might be easier. Part of it.
And it goes to the second page too, because it relates to subdivision control.
Yeah, I don't think we can say this because this way doesn't exist. I mean, the thing we see in the photographs exists, the thing with the stone walls, that exists. But the thing that's giving them adequate access, the 22-foot wide easement, that's, if that were to be connected to the gravel way that has the trucks on it and everything, that if they were to build this to be 14 feet wide with a stable gravel surface and connected to the road where it is developed, that would provide adequate access for a single home on the 10-acre lot. That, I think, is something we could do, and it doesn't make a judgment about whether that access is legal access.
So this says in our agenda that this is a discussion topic, not a ruling, right? And so what Bob has suggested is guidance for them to come back with how that easement would be constructed. And if you did that, then it seems like there might be a sense on the board that we would provide the ruling. And I think it may be good to have planning staff talk with Ralph about, you know, what does he think he needs from us? So that when we craft a motion, when we see the specs on that 80-foot by 20-foot easement, that we'll know that the motion before us is something that Ralph says, yep, that's what I need.
So
Does that make sense?
Yeah, is this a discussion item, or is this?
So
Here.
I put a motion
I know
in.
you said- here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't typically do the staff report, so it was put into key action items, but in the past we've motioned on this kind of determination.
So, I think, do you have an idea of where we're going?
Yeah.
And I think what I would like to do is have a motion to continue this to the next meeting.
Okay.
Have time to talk about it in the planning department, in the town council, and with Ralph, and have you come back at the next meeting. Would that be acceptable to you?
Can I have a moment?
Sure.
Bob, can I get my notes back?
May I ask a question? Mr. Chair, would that motion be on the condition that the applicants resubmit a plan showing the easement, the proposed changes to the easement? Okay.
Mr. Chair, could I do the meeting after your next meeting? Which is when? When is that meeting? Sorry.
No, that's okay. Give me 1 second.
Be the 21st of April,
Please.
Tuesday,
Yes, please.
21st of April.
Yep.
So,
Okay, motion to continue.
A motion to continue to April 21st,
Somebody's
2026.
gonna make
I
it.
make a,
second,
Chair, I make a motion to continue this to the April 21st.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next is, it's not a discussion topic, even though it's labeled as. Approval not required, A&R, 38 System Lane Farm, file number 26-3729. A request by Vanessa Carvello for endorsement of a two-lot plan of land located at 38 System Farm Lane, dividing Assessor's Map 51, Lot 44M into one building lot.
For the record, Greg Nicholas of South Coast Engineering. If you recall, I was here last week to discuss the feasibility of this plan, which is on the table, to see whether or not it was entitled to an endorsement. The question we had was the fact that there's a stone wall built out into the right-of-way. So there it is. So what we have here, we have an existing 4.2 acre parcel of land, and the proposal here is to subdivide this into two lots, one with the existing house. Well, septic system is actually right here. That would be lot 1, with this tail over here to make up the area. Lot 2 would be the remaining land, which would be accessible off the existing System Farm Lane with the edge of gravel right over here. Driveway would be built to the building site, to be down on this area. We do have an excess of 150 feet of frontage. We do have well over 60,000 square feet and well over 30,000 square feet of upland. As I mentioned at the previous hearing, this land, wetland line has gone through conservation, it's been approved by ANRAD. We have 4 successful perk sites on the property. So, without regurgitating the whole thing I said last time, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so, Mr. Nicholas appeared before us at our last meeting and went over this, and I misspoke. It is dividing this into 2 building lots, not 1. And he was here for a pre-application, which was, we appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.
And one member wasn't here for that, but I don't know if you have any questions about this.
No, I think this is straightforward.
Yeah.
And this is a way that was created under the subdivision control laws.
Correct.
On motion?
Great.
I move to endorse the A&R plan for 38 Sisson Farm Lane, 26-3729A, pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 81P.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is the 6:15 public hearing, only an hour late, for 0 High Ridge Road, file number 26-3482 SP-FF, request by Eric and Jillian Raposa to modify the conditions of approval for a special permit flexible frontage, requesting to strike any reference to a future common driveway from item number 1D, map 42, lots 1T, 3, 7, and 8-2.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
My name is Ryan Duvalli with Heritage Realty and Custom Homes. I'm a real estate agent, also a builder. I'm here to speak for the owners, Eric and Jillian, as well as I have clients that are looking to purchase this property. And within our due diligence, we spoke with Greg, actually, with the owners and with planning board staff, just to get some clarification on the decision for the flexible frontage that was granted in 2023. Mr. Burris actually issued us an opinion letter, which I don't know if the board has, basically stating he does not believe that a special permit or the construction of a shared driveway is required per the decision. However, with the buyers obviously outlaying a significant amount of money and consulting with their attorney, just as a matter of kind of dotting our I's and crossing our T's, there's some generic language and a couple references in the decision about a shared driveway to be built, noted on the plans, and such as that. Mr. Burris did insist that that wouldn't be enforced. A shared driveway for this property would not be required, but I know planners can change, building inspectors could change. I saw the only path forward to just protect my clients was to have a conversation with the board, either as a modification or a amendment to get the decision just clarified, because it was, everyone discussed it as kind of a gray area. So just to make sure that we were covered. I do know that when the hearings were held, there were some other restrictions on the property, clearing areas and things of that nature that, you know, meets the requirement of the bylaw, the way it was written. And the way the property is, you know, trip counts, all that, we're talking about a couple houses. None of that's affected by the shared driveway. It still meets those requirements. So just wanted to have the conversation with the board and make sure we were on the same page.
Okay, I think I remember this, and I think the shared driveway was put in hoping that they would have a shared driveway instead of 2 separate driveways. But you're telling me they don't want to do that, I guess.
That, my purchase is at least correct. They do not want to do that. They would not move ahead to purchase if they had to do that. And if on these properties, to be honest, if we zoomed in a little at the frontage, I've built plenty of properties with shared driveways. A lot of times you're going in 200 feet with a shared driveway, maybe for 3 or more parcels, and then you might split off from here. Here, it would literally come in and immediately V off. There would be no practical benefit to a shared driveway. It would be in name only. So for that reason, I would, ask for that language to be stricken, mainly because it's doesn't serve a practical purpose in this case to eliminate impervious area or anything, in my opinion.
Okay, so you have limited frontage on the cul-de-sac for lot 2 and lot 1. So how far apart would the driveways be?
We would typically, if I was building on both properties, which I wouldn't be, but if I was, I would go near the center of the frontage, and typically we only have about a 15-foot curb cut, just enough for a 12-foot driveway with radii. It appears this one is about 50 and this is about 30. So if we went in the center, 25, about 8, 15, they'd be 20, 22 feet apart, give or take. Nothing I don't see pretty frequently in a lot of subdivisions that I do where you have driveways around cul-de-sacs.
So I believe that if we didn't have a shared driveway agreement, the listing of the shared driveway on the plan is meaningless unless you really want to do it. So. Do you?
Right, so the original decision references this future common driveway without requiring one. The approved plans for the special permit for flexible frontage don't require or delineate this common driveway. Since potential buyers are confused, the seller wants to mitigate that confusion. So condition of approval, item number 1D, would be amended to say, on the approved plan, sublots 1 and 2 shall incorporate clearing areas marked on each proposed lot to restrict clearing of vegetation outside of the defined area. This would include the building envelope. I've talked with staff and town planner, and we don't see issue with this modification.
Any comments, questions?
Do these lots 1 and 2 have required frontage?
For flexible frontage?
Yes.
For flexible.
Oh,
Flexible
all right.
frontage.
So it stays, okay, I got you, yeah.
Because for instance, lot 1 is 5 3/4 acres.
Yeah,
So they got to have a 30-foot frontage.
So the way the bylaw works is if the lots are large, we can shrink the frontage requirement.
okay. Yeah, and lot 2 is 8 acres, so.
Yeah, there was originally, as I recall, there was a yield plan showing an additional lot, right?
Correct, yes.
Correct. Okay. So
You want a
entertain
motion?
Please.
I move to approve the modification to the conditions of approval for special permit flexible frontage filed with town clerk on October 4th, 2023, and with the Registry of Deeds, book 15159, page 271, to strike any reference to a future common driveway from item 1D.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Yep.
Me too.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next is the 6:30 public hearing for 854 State Road, file number 26-3302, SBA-minor. This is rescheduled for March 10th, 2026. Applicant is requesting approval to construct a 30 by 60 storage building to be used for general storage and light welding activities.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Peter Solino. I'm a lawyer. My address is 550 Locust Street in Fall River. I represent the property owner applicant, Mr. Macedo, and with us is Kevin Silva here from SKE Engineering.
Okay.
The proposal before you, I think, is somewhat simplistic. My client is a mobile welder, so he doesn't have any employees. He does residential, commercial, and marine welding. He does things like railings, so he might put them together in the proposed structure and then bring them to New Bedford and fasten them to a ship. What his objective here is to build this structure, which is 30 by 60, as indicated. He would store in that structure his personal tools and vehicles associated with his business. The size of the structure is really a product of him wanting to work and keep things out of the weather. As the board knows, if he was at 1,000 square feet, then he would not need the approval of the board, but he's looking to go with a 1,300 square foot dimension in order that he can fit his trucks and still have a workspace in the premises. I have seen the comments from the engineer, and obviously our engineer is here to respond to any comments or questions the board or the assistant planner may have for us. But in terms of the scope of the project, it's Mr. Macedo. He doesn't have employees, and the reason he's doing this or requesting this is in order to be able to store his work vehicles and equipment in this location. And I should also note for the record, zoning is proper. It's a pre-existing non-conforming structure. It's zoned business.
Right, and on the property, there's already a garage and a house, right?
That is correct. There's a multifamily style structure close to Route 6. There is an existing garage. One of your consultants' comments was show trees on the site. Those trees have been cut down. I think they probably look at Google Earth. So the trees are actually not on site, but that was one of the comments that.
Where's the road? Is it to the left on that drawing? The access in front of the dwelling?
So Route 6 is here.
Okay.
And then Washington is the side street. The proposed structure is as depicted here. The driveway as proposed is 47 feet? Yes, I'm getting a, all right. Yes, it's 47 feet.
Okay, we have an extensive review by NBL, our consulting engineer, which
Yes.
you have a copy of, right?
Is this the, Mr. Chair, the January 16 version?
Yes.
Yes, I do have a copy of that.
Okay, and I don't need to read through the whole thing, but they have some flags about stormwater and I think basically the big issue is the stormwater, where it's going is too close to the well, is from what I understand.
That's how I read it as well.
And it's a state law, it's not our law. And it's something that they tell us that can't be waived. So the question of how to move things around so that the stormwater infiltration is not too close to the existing well is something that can be done by reducing the impervious surface, so the calculation would be different, and then you wouldn't have a problem. So the expert on the board just returned. I'm not sure he's had a chance to look at this plan. But I think they've had this, Dia can tell us that they've had lots of back and forth with the consulting engineer. How can we get around this problem? And so from our perspective, we want to encourage businesses here. We want, this is, from our perspective, this is fine, but it's not going to meet state stormwater standards and therefore wouldn't be allowed. So.
May I respond?
Yeah, oh,
Okay, I'm sorry.
maybe Dia could give some feedback on the give and take back and forth with the consulting engineer.
Do you want me to comment just on this stormwater recharge issue, or do you want me to present my whole review? at this
Well,
time.
let's start with the recharge.
Okay,
thing,
sure.
'cause that's the most important thing.
Yeah, so there are kind of three main issues that staff finds with this project. Number one being the location of these recharge chambers. MA stormwater and well guidelines don't offer any waiver from these setback regulations. So the project needs to result in a net decrease of impervious surface to eliminate the need for recharge on site. So that's how we've concluded to get around those setback requirements, which we cannot waive. There's one option to convert the proposed driveways to gravel and reduce the impervious area by an additional 200 feet on site to result in a net decrease of impervious surface. Option two, which I find is the one that I would recommend, is to keep the proposed walkway and the proposed unit and eliminate all remaining proposed impervious areas. That would leave an additional 983 square foot of impervious surface to reduce. The engineer might have to verify those dimensions.
Can you explain, Dia, where they propose reducing impervious surface now, and then what your recommendation is in terms of additional removals of impervious surface?
So they're recommending removal. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Yes.
They're removing it here.
Yeah.
They're removing a section here. And then they're adding a section here and here. My recommended choice is to keep this proposed walkway for access to the proposed unit, but to eliminate the remaining proposed areas, mainly being this curb cut here. And then they would have to convert an additional 983 square feet to convert it from impervious to non-impervious.
And
to porous.
where would they get that?
They could reduce the size of the structure.
By how much?
The engineer needs to verify the findings, but the consulting engineer gave us a number of 983 square feet. I think there's also an existing garage
That's the
there.
total impervious area they got to reduce,
Yes,
based on this plan,
yes.
with keeping everything else on the plan that they're,
So that would reduce the garage by half.
The first option that was proposed was converting both these driveways to porous pavements, and then they just have to reduce the impervious area by 200 feet, but staff finds an issue with this proposed curb cut already, which is why I went for the second recommendation to remove it.
so what you and Michael are suggesting is not have that curb cut on Washington, not the new curb cut.
Right,
Just use the old driveway.
right,
Yeah,
So that would reduce a lot of,
right.
and also, I don't know, I mean, so the driveway now goes between those two red blocking things right
Yes,
there?
arbor-vitae, yeah.
Yeah.
Could they have that whole end of the, what's that, the west end of the building? You know, or maybe have two doors or something, so you've got, that open up,
Mhm.
because you'd lose these access doors
Mhm.
on the south end of the building, the long side. But if you increase the openings on this western end of the building, would that give the applicant enough access in and out of the building?
Can you turn the building?
Could we have a chance to respond, please? All right, so Kevin Silva, SKE Engineer.
For the record, Kevin Silver, S&K Engineering. As far as that last question, turning the building, it will not fit because of the septic system that's there currently.
Okay.
And in regards to the infiltration field, this is a clean roof, as they quote in stormwater management, and it's to a dry well. It's not treating a galvanized or a copper roof, so you don't need the setback reduction as if you were treating like a driveway and trying to infiltrate, beneath the ground. Same thing with a galvanized or a copper roof. So my understanding of the stormwater management is that it's a painted roof and it's clean water, and they don't need to infiltrate it. We were doing that to get some credit because we were adding the driveway to access the building. In regards to eliminating this, he would have difficulty getting his trucks in and out of here to go to work every day, because he has several trucks that he has all equipped depending on what he's welding. So driving straight in is more convenient and more beneficial to go straight in without having to block. This garage will be used for him and his partner to put their cars in residential. They live there. They actually live on the property. So he's just trying to keep everything combined in here. And this, if we didn't put the infiltration field, this water could just discharge onto the ground and onto the grass and over to the well, this roof is less than 50 feet away. And then roof water goes onto the ground and towards the well, just the same.
So you're saying that the Massachusetts requirement for stormwater infiltration setbacks is different if you have a painted roof?
Well, my interpretation, my experience, if you have a clean roof, what they call a clean roof, it doesn't have to be treated, it can be just discharged. If it's galvanized or copper, or if you're using an infiltration field for a parking lot or a driveway where you're picking up contaminants, then you have to treat it, keep the separation 2 feet above water table. And this is simply just to slow the water down that's coming off this new garage area and give it a chance to infiltrate. It's going to have overflow on the downspouts, which eventually, if it ever does fill up, it'll just go onto the ground like a conventional downspout. As far as the impervious area, we are eliminating, this was a parking driveway area to access the original business that was here. We're eliminating all this impervious area in front of the building and putting a lawn and landscaping to make a better appearance. And then part of removing what, as she mentioned, we're removing these 2 concrete pads to give back some impervious area and so that we can construct this.
What is the garage at the top left?
That's built into the ground. It's kind of, it's just been there for years. It's like, it's built in, it's right up against Route 6.
Is it used?
Are you using that currently?
Not at the moment, but I'm gonna probably put my lawnmower, stuff to clean the yard with. That's kind of the intention.
Yeah.
It is a little run down, but if I can do all this, eventually I'd like to put some money in that garage. It's very small. It's almost like a shed.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we have to do some more back and forth with the consulting engineer to determine this. The other issues, do you want to go over?
Can I just ask one? How many trucks do you have that you want to put in this
I
proposal?
have 2 trucks right now and welding machines and other equipment that would be nice to.
But you're saying with 2 trucks and a 30-foot wide building, you couldn't come in the 30-foot, the wall to the west? How do the trucks get in the way if there's just 2 of them?
Well, that
and you got
shop's
30 feet.
Well, the shop's going to be filled with steel cutting equipment, and
Yeah.
I'm going to use it as a small fabrication shop. So to have access to all those doors, you'd have room in the shop to maneuver, you know?
Well, I mean, I think you could park the 2 trucks on the west side by side, so you can take out either one you want, and then do your work area to the east of them, and you'd have the same amount of room. You're just coming in from a different direction.
Well,
but it's not that you'd have to move one truck to get your other truck out.
Well, in my opinion, you'd probably, this is how I look at it, you'd park your trucks here. I'm going to try to put my brake press here, my shear here, and you'd have your small access work area here. Welding tables, ironworker shear, some steel racks, it gets 30 by 60. If I could go bigger, I would, but that's, that's all we can fit on the property.
Yeah.
Okay, Dia, you want to go over the other comments?
Sure. So I'll share the two other issues that staff finds, and then I'll go through the review, but I'll try and be a little fast because it's a thick review. The issue number 2 would be the curb cut. So site plan approval does ask for typically one entrance or exit on a property or on a lot. In addition, staff and highway do find that the dimensions of that proposed curb cut will lead to either vehicular turnaround in the roadway or potential points of conflict with the intersection with Route 6 and Washington Street. So staff finds that an elimination of that proposed curb cut would probably be most beneficial to the site. Number 3, drainage. Drainage from that curb cut to Washington Street must be mitigated and retained on site. And drainage from that swale on the eastern side also directs right into Washington Street. We didn't get any comments from Mass DOT, but Highway did confirm that they would need that stormwater to be mitigated as well.
They would,
Yeah.
okay.
May I respond to some of that?
Sure.
This trench, this is a stone trench, also picking up the water from this huge complex that's all coming off the hill, coming this direction. This is a stone trench that's just, it's set up like a swale with a 2-foot stone trench proposed to absorb the water and then again infiltrate anything that's coming on from other properties to help counteract the impervious area that we're proposing. Now, my client could and is willing, if the board is really hung up on that portion, we could make this portion of the driveway stone to smaller the curb cut. But even if we use this access, he's still gonna have to back his trucks out as he does now. He's eliminating this curb cut. He's eliminating the use of this for his trucks. And he's gonna be using it here. He parks them. It's not like it's foot traffic in and out of here daily. It's when he gets up and goes to work, backs out and leaves.
So is the trench proposed or existing?
Yes, I'm sorry,
Is it proposed or existing?
is what proposed?
The trench?
This is proposed.
Okay. And so how do you deal with the stormwater that comes off that hill now?
The stormwater comes right out to his property and just sheds off. So by catching it and deterring it to this trench, it'll absorb it and delay it, detain it a little, and then allow it to infiltrate. This catches the roof, as it's called a dry well, if you will, for that section of stormwater that they refer to. And that'll absorb the water and as well as detain it so it has less runoff. It's sized to hold 1 inch of water on the entire roof. That's how much capacity is there with the stone.
And after 1 inch of rain, what happens?
After 1 inch of rain, it'll, depending on, I didn't do stormwater management as we were directed. We didn't need it for this project. So I would imagine after 1 inch of rain, if this, I'd have to figure out the infiltration rate, how much gets infiltrated. So I don't know how much would even be, I don't know how much capacity this could take without calculating the infiltration rate. But if there's overflows on the downspouts, which would just fill up all the piping and then overflow through the downspouts. As it does now, come back out onto the property.
Right, and go on to Washington Street.
Well, it all flows to Washington Street currently. The purpose of these two drainage structures is to detain it so that it simulates what's there currently.
Right, so Dia, this is a minor site plan or a site plan?
This is a minor site plan.
Can I ask a question? Can I?
Yep, sure.
This is to you and to Dia. You said that you're going to do a clean roof, which is painting it white, which gets you some relief in terms of its clean water that gets discharged. My question, and I don't know the answer to this, is do you get relief if instead of doing a clean roof, you do a green roof? That is with
planting beds, succulents. It's not a lot of maintenance, but what that does is absorb the water. So it greatly reduces storm runoff.
Correct. The green roof is a whole different animal.
Yep.
That is adding impervious, obviously you probably know that, grass and landscaping on top of the roof.
Yeah.
That increases the style of the structure, the expense to build it. The structural members in there have to be upsized to hold the earth. That's going to be on top of there, plus the snow load. So it does create a huge expense on top of this. This infiltration here that we're proposing in this little dry well is to simulate the impervious area that the green roof, but the green roof water would sit on there, on top of the roof, and the plants would basically try to eat it and evaporate it, drink it and evaporate, but it still has an overflow as well that would go out to downspouts on the bigger storms.
But not as much.
I don't know about as much. I personally haven't tested one. I don't particularly, not a fan of a green roof.
Can tell.
That opens up to complication.
Yeah.
So is this a flat roof or?
This has got a minor pitch to it.
A minor pitch.
It's a pre-ordered building, steel building. And he bought this property because it's his own business with intent to get his business here.
Okay, so, Dia, you want to go over the other comments?
Sure. All right, I'll try and be quick. Just a little bit about the history and proposed use. The current owner bought this property in 2025, and the new ownership's not reflected in the mapping database as of yet. The plat contains an existing dwelling built in 1910 and 2 garages, the smaller garage not being in use, and the larger garage currently being used for storage. After the proposed storage unit is built, the larger garage will be used for parking, and the storage unit will be used to store commercial equipment for the applicant/owner's business. Clients will not be accessing. When it comes to the intensity regulations for minimum lot area, frontage, and setback requirements, the lot, it is non-conforming, but no new lots are being created, and the non-conformity will not increase, and then it meets all the setback requirements. When it comes to Section 8, general regulations, of site plan review, waivers, no waivers are proposed. For performance standards, there's a proposed driveway which includes a pedestrian walkway to the entrance of the storage unit. The existing concrete driveway to the garage will be resurfaced and improved for safety and quality. The existing paved walkway to the dwelling is to be removed and seeded as mitigation for the proposed impervious surface. Planning and highway staff find that the public roadway could be utilized for site circulation, which is not permissible under the site plan rules and regulations. So it would be an inappropriate use of town road that would create negative impacts to site distances and create additional points of conflict at the Route 6 and Washington Street intersection. So,
can you repeat that, please?
Sure. And basically what I'm going to say is staff recommends eliminating the proposed driveway and utilizing the existing concrete drive and proposed walkway as access. Because planning and highway staff find that the public roadway of Washington Street could be utilized for site circulation off of the proposed curb cut, which is not permissible under our rules and regs.
So explain that. So highway, you're talking about our highway.
Our highway department, yep.
Is stating that they're going to use that for circulation?
They felt like the curb cut didn't have a large enough dimension to accommodate for vehicular trucks like parking and unloading, and they foresaw that those trucks would be potentially backing out into Washington Street. And Route 6 is the turning radius of Route 6 into Washington Street could also create points of conflicts if cars are turning around right at the intersection.
So if he's taking his material from there to New Bedford to use, he's backing out once.
Mm-hmm.
That's an issue?
I think staff and highway was concerned, if other people are dropping off materials for him or any kinds of other vehicles that would be accessing the property for his storage purposes.
If I may, if we were to use this driveway that's there now. They would still have to back out into Route 6, which would be closer, out to Washington Street, which is closer to the entrance of Route 6. So by pushing it over here, the minimum use of this driveway, like you just mentioned, once a day, come back at night, when he leaves, it's only one in and out, and he's backing out and going. If he goes over here, he's still gonna have to back out as well.
Why, I don't understand why that's the case. Why couldn't he back out the short end of the building and back up and then drive forward out? In other words, back towards the existing garage and then drive forward. I don't understand why he has to back all the way to Washington Street.
Because his trucks are full of equipment.
Yeah, so they back up, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, okay.
But he's gonna have them parked here, and this is just for him to access, to get into his building and do his work in this area.
Well, he could work in the other area, though. I know you have the idea of how you want to set that up, but we are talking about an alternative way because of stormwater. So I think what you need to do is think about, is there another way to get this done that still provides the enclosed work area and provides parking for 2 trucks? There may be another solution than what you have laid out. I hope you would consider the possibility. And that would include backing out the left side of the building, backing towards the garage so you can then enter Washington Street going forward instead of backing. I don't understand why that's not possible.
I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's just not convenient for what he's trying to do.
No.
And the other question is, if you turned the building, you could have the one skinny end closer to Washington Street than it is now.
I don't have the distance from the septic system if I turn the building, and the offset from the road.
I don't see how that can be. I mean, it's a corner lot, so is the 25-foot setback from both streets, or
Yes.
just one from both? Okay, gotcha.
It says, in the case of corner lots, there shall be a setback requirement of 25 feet from the street line to the side of any building or structure.
Right.
As the consultant said about the stormwater management, if you want to read that again, I believe they said that we're compensating by getting rid of all this impervious area for this. And we could make this a 2-bay garage for him to get his trucks in and make the rest stone, if that would satisfy the board's concerns. We could make that 3rd bay just stone, as if it was like stone landscaping. Or we could leave it at grass, and if he's gonna use it, he'll drive over the grass. It's just a cleaner operation, and for cleanup in the winter, like we had, if it's paved, stone is just a little more difficult to maintain.
Well, you could have pervious paving, right?
Well, you could, yes.
You have that, you'd mentioned that.
Mhm.
That's one option too.
Right.
Does that give you any stormwater credits for pervious paving?
I'm not really looking for any stormwater credits here. I was just looking to eliminate impervious area
Right.
versus the stormwater. We're trying to infiltrate the roof here to eliminate the runoff concern of the roof. I didn't do a stormwater analysis on this parcel because it takes a lot of time and money, and we said we didn't need it, so I didn't want to take my client.
So we're not asking you to do a stormwater analysis.
Okay.
What we're trying to figure out, is there a way to make this plan compliant with Massachusetts? So the infiltration that is required or that you're using is further away from the well, and that's it. So how to do that you can either reduce impervious surface so that you have less water going into the well, and I don't know what that means, you can move it somewhere else.
Well, he does have town water here
Yeah.
that just got brought to his property. He has not hooked up to it yet, but he does have it available.
Well, that would change a lot, so.
But then again,
You'd have to, part of the approval would be that you're hooking up to water.
Are you willing to hook up to water?
I haven't really thought about it too much. I don't know, the well works pretty good.
So the water.
So I guess I'd have to
from
think
what I
about that.
understand, they'll bring the pipe right to your building, which is unusual. There's no betterment, which is really unusual. So all you have to do is pipe it from where they drop it off into your building. But then you have to pay the bill every month.
Yeah.
Again, we didn't even think of that because this is considered, in my eyes, in my interpretation, a dry well. It's not a treatment, it's not to treat the stone water, it's just to store it and allow it to infiltrate into the ground. Again, if it was galvanized or copper, or if I was infiltrating the driveway, then I would say you'd have all those concerns and setbacks. I mean, unless there's a regulation that I missed somewhere that says that you cannot do that, I read it over, the one he quoted, and if you read it, you can see the regulation from stormwater, the stormwater handbook terminology does say that if it's not copper or galvanized, you can discharge your roof into a dry well. And this way, I would consider more of a dry well, acting as a detention pond, if you will.
I think they could solve their problem by connecting to the public water. That would be a solution. And if they want to keep the well, then I think they have to shrink them. It's 47 feet wide. The lanes on the highway are only 12 feet wide. You know, that driveway is 47 feet wide. Truck's only 8 feet wide.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, it would be more of loading and unloading your truck. I mean, that space gets very small very quick. I mean, that'd be...
You mean you'd load and unload it on the driveway, is that what you're saying?
Well, that would
Yeah.
make sense to me, because
Yeah.
if, you know, you have a table here, I mean, the space gets filled up. I mean, you'd have your truck over here with the door open, you pick your welding machine up with a forklift and put it right on the truck. You know, and that doesn't happen every day, but to maneuver that in the building, probably wouldn't happen considering it's a 30 by 60. I mean, that's, so the drive, I mean, I'd be open to make this gravel. I don't know if that changes anything.
Porous paver would,
Yeah,
gravel,
millings or,
because gravel's
So-
considered like
so-
asphalt.
We're not gonna solve this sitting here. So what I would suggest is we continue to the next meeting. Give your engineer time to talk with our consulting engineer and come up with a mutual solution. But bearing in mind that we don't have the ability to waive the requirement if you're subject to it.
okay.
And then you're referring to the well for that requirement? Is that what you're referring to?
The distance
To the
to the
well?
well. That's the main thing. And then the other things are, he's suggesting some vegetative buffer and stuff like that, but,
Yeah, vegetative buffer, they didn't realize there is a fence here,
okay.
a PVC fence that's currently here, brand new, 6 feet high, acts as the barrier. He's proposing arborvitae's over here to seclude, keep his backyard private. So he is proposing some vegetation here. He's putting lawn and vegetation in the front and landscaping that as part of this
Yeah.
as he develops.
Okay, before we talk about continuing, do you have more comments?
I do. let me try and kind of breeze through them, just so we're all on the same page before, any motions come through. So the proposed structure and use is screened by those arbor vitae that front on Washington Street. We find that there's potential for those trees to create site distance issues, so we're recommending shrubs instead. Let's see. The fire department, sorry, never mind. Staff recommends eliminating the driveway, utilizing the existing driveway. No comments from the fire department. You said that we said that the trees that are going to be felled need to be proposed on the plans. It seems like that's already incorporated. Those trees have come down. The recharge chambers, there's a comment about relocating the recharge chambers. The building fits in with the surrounding area. The Board of Health had no comments. Just making sure that stormwater needs to be retained on site. Installed lighting must be downward cast and fully shielded. No lighting plan was proposed. No waivers sought. All right. Not applicable pedestrian circulation. And then I'll skip to the findings. So the summary of findings from the zoning bylaws, number 1, the staff and highway department agree that there's the potential for the public roadway to be utilized as an extension of the proposed driveway. We've discussed this already. Staff recommends eliminating the proposed driveway and utilizing the existing concrete drive as access. Number 2, the proposed structure and use is screened by arbor vitae. There's potential for site distance issues, so staff recommends shrubs. Number 3, the highway department is concerned about potential drainage impacts to Washington Street due to sheet flow off the proposed driveways. The planning board's site plans, rules, and regulations require on-site stormwater management. Number 4, the proposed driveway does not provide adequate space for vehicular turnaround. Staff recommends eliminating this driveway and utilizing the existing driveway as access. Number 5 is about the trees, so I'm going to skip that. Number 6, no lighting plan is submitted. Fully shielded downcast lights shall be installed as a condition of approval. Number 7, the highway department being concerned about drainage impacts to Washington Street. Number 8, the proposed recharge chambers not meeting the setback requirements. Number 9, the arbor vitae again. And then number 10 is about drainage. Number 11 is about the 2 entrances delineated on the plan. Staff recommends eliminating the proposed entrance. Number 12, the parking area does not provide ample space for vehicular turnaround. And these are pretty much a repetition of those. And then the consultant review had some additional findings that the deed book and page information is not labeled correctly, the zoning isn't labeled correctly.
That was all corrected.
Yeah.
If you got the new one.
I don't think I got the new one, we're representing the old one, but I know you've incorporated it.
I did address that.
Perfect, thank you. And then MBL also recommends using, you might be able to speak to this, HDPE or SCH40 PVC piping.
Schedule 40, SDR 35.
Yeah, instead of SDR 35.
I upgraded it to Schedule 40, but there, in my opinion, I use SDR 35 all the time.
Okay.
All the sewer pipes in most of the towns are SDR 35, so there's going to be no traffic on this except for under here. But to satisfy them, I did upgrade it to the Schedule 40 piping.
Okay, yeah.
So that was
Right.
just add more expense to the pipe.
So I just wrote, thank you, some sample of conditions of approval, which hopefully kind of bring us all back to the same page, and I'll show them here. The plan including the following missing elements upon resubmission, existing impervious surfaces to be removed prior to the construction, the driveway to be removed, the reduction of additional impervious surface, the site being allowed to revegetate permanently, the piping, redesign the stormwater system as to not discharge to the state roads or Washington Street, and to submit all applicable permits with Mass DOT. So if the board feels that a continuance is recommended, I think their plans to resubmission should include some of those missing elements and work through the recharge on site.
Okay, so I'd like to continue this to either the next meeting or the meeting after to give you time to talk with the guy from MDL or woman from MBL, and come up with a satisfactory way to get around the mass law, whether it's the painted roof or getting rid of impervious surfaces or however you do it,
Or tie into town water.
or tie into town water.
Okay.
So-
And as far as this driveway, if we were to get rid of, what would be the board allow for a driveway over here? We are eliminating this driveway that has access and use for parking.
Yep.
That's right up against Route 6, as well as there are many other businesses along Route 6 that do the same. And this whole watershed, I don't know, you can't see it here, but if you look at the whole watershed of the area contributing to Route 6, the difference in the impervious lot coverage added by this project is going to be minuscule compared to the whole watershed that's contributed to Route 6.
Yeah,
Would the board be satisfied if we cut a big section of this 47-foot, made it just wide enough for the two bays, and made the other one stone?
I think that would help you get rid of impervious surface.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to figure out how to do. I mean, it's not our requirement for the stormwater infiltration away from the well. So you can change that by getting town water, or you can change that by getting rid of impervious surface, which would allow you to do a different way to get rid of the water. With regard to the driveway and on Washington Street, I'm willing to listen, but I think, so if you narrowed it down some, that's gonna help you, and also to have a smaller curb cut is always better
Yes.
for safety reasons. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I certainly am approve continuing this, and I'll make a motion if you want, but I'm not sold on your need for that new driveway. The staff has recommended that you can eliminate that and should eliminate that. I think the new the driveway as you propose guarantees that trucks will be backing onto Washington Street. Whereas if you lay out the garage and use the existing driveway, I think you can back using the existing driveway and enter Washington Street driving forward. Now, that's only one of the findings, the arborvitae, you know, I really think you need to look at addressing the staff findings. And if you want a motion along those lines, Mr. Chair, I'd make it. Do you have a date you'd prefer to come back?
I do, and I have a question.
Yeah, what's the date, first of all?
I think it needs to be more than 2 weeks, right?
For
Are they 2-week intervals, the hearings?
We have April 7th and 21st.
So you think you could be ready for the 7th? I'm not going to be here. The 21st is April school vacation, so I won't be here for that. So the kids are out of school that week, so I won't be here. But
And the next one after that is all the way to May 19th.
What's it?
April 7th.
I could, I could get, I mean, provided I can get it.
So the applicant will ask the board for April 7th.
Okay.
Okay. And then my question really, because it drives this whole discussion, and I don't see it answered in the comments, what is the law, specifically the CMR, that says that the radius is what it says in these comments, and why it can't be waived? So what the comment says is he talks about, or she talks about, a handbook and recommendations. So if the law is that 100 foot is mandatory in a CMR, then I think we start the discussion with you can't waive it and therefore we can't ask for it.
Right.
If this is a recommendation, that's different than the law, and I think that drives the discussion maybe in a different direction. So I think to analyze all facts, I'd respectfully request that somebody can provide us a CMR and we don't get into his interpretation and your interpretation. It's the law. And I think that's a reasonable request to be in a review memo.
I agree, we'll try.
Okay. So the applicant then would request April 7th if the board would be willing to make that motion for a continuance of this matter for us to reconvene the hearing.
Okay,
You want a motion?
please.
I would move we continue the public hearing to April 7th. You need a time on that? We didn't continue the other public hearing to the 7th, right? We did it to the 21st, so this is the only public hearing, right?
So far, yeah.
So far, so 6:15, that, April 7th, 6:15, and required the applicant resubmit a site plan with staff findings addressed. Now, I think we've talked, from connecting to town water, all different ways of addressing the staff findings. There's not one right answer here, there's probably 5 right answers here. So it's a question of figuring out what's the right answer that addresses the staff findings. So that's my motion.
Right.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next is the planning report.
We'll skip over the planner's report for the assistant planner's report. Okay. So, assistant planner's report. We, due to the canceled meeting because of snow and then a canceled meeting because of a lack of a quorum, we had 4 approval not required plans of lands that were administratively approved. So I'll just quickly show you what happened. The first one is going to be on Elise Michelle Way / Nathan Kaplan Way. This is a private way right above Amory Petty. So they divided basically 2 big parcels on Nathan Kaplan Way into 6 lots. And here you can see them detailed. Nothing too crazy.
So this is along the east side of Duval Pond?
Yes. Saudi.
Saudi.
Yeah. Nothing we can do about it now. And then we had one at Sodom Road. Basically, they took this lot 1 and then took out these 2 parcels, lots 3 and 4, which front on Sodom Road. Both buildable lots.
And whereabouts on Sodom Road?
1017.
That doesn't help.
Let me pull up Map Geo. Here we go. Right a little bit where it comes from Adamsville. Pardon.
On the right?
Yep, on the left.
On the left?
Yeah.
And what did they do?
They basically took out 2 parcels here to make 2 buildable lots. Here we go. Lot 3 and lot 4.
And there's nothing there now?
They've got these.
Okay.
Then we had one for Marcotte Drive, that subdivision that's going on. They split land off of lot 7 for access and drainage easement for the town, because their intention is to submit this to the town. Now, whether or not the town's going to accept that is a separate issue, but they were able to separate off this part of the land off of lot 7. So let me know if you want me to zoom in.
So that's the buffer zone from the abutter property owner.
Right.
And, but they still own it, even though they split it off from the land.
Right.
What do they want to do?
Their intention is to give Marcotte Drive to the town, so this parcel that they just split off has access and drainage easements for maintenance of the roadway.
No way we take it.
Right? Okay. They'll just have to manage that. Then we had one on Adamsville Road at 304 Adamsville. This was quite a large parcel that they divided into 3 buildable lots As you can see, 1, 2, and 3. And then 2 parcels that are going to be conveyed to the abutters. Parcel A to be conveyed to this northernmost abutter, parcel B to the one right below.
And where is this on Adamsville Road?
304 Adamsville, and I'll put it up on MapGeo so we can get some context. Here we go. So now we're looking up at Adamsville to the top. This is where Main Road is, so this is right before Gray's. And here's the plan. It's rotated 90.
Where's north again on that plan?
Here, yeah.
Left.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So which lots are created?
This is lot 3, which has a lot of wetlands. Lot 2 right here, and lot 1 are 3 new buildable lots, and then parcel B and parcel A are conveyed to these abutters right here, these adjacent abutters.
Okay.
So those are the A&Rs. We talked a little bit last meeting about the climate resilience report. So we're working through populating a template for Chapter 7. We have the next meeting in April. Right now, the subcommittee heads are all hard at work, incorporating some of the feedback from Jeff and getting these chapters into a template that we can kind of move forward with. So working through that. The Coastal Relocation Network was last week. That was the 2nd annual workshop for coastal issues in managed retreat in Massachusetts. We were able, it's a really good opportunity to kind of connect with other climate resilience professionals in the state and see what other municipalities are doing in terms of managing sea level rise at the coast. So we talked about some strategic framework principles, the sequencing and timing of these conversations, an equity and justice lens, and having institutional readiness for conversations like managed retreat. Of course, Westport is a couple steps behind. You know, we're still kind of at the forefront of that discussion. I think places like Riviera are already, upgrading, raising utilities, that sort of thing. So it's good setup for whenever we're ready to take the next step. I was also able to attend a Southeastern Massachusetts Planners Roundtable discussion. Sarah Raposa, if you remember her, is the one who organizes those. So that's great, just another networking event for me. We discussed the new DOER permitting guidelines, which are still somehow confusing for everyone. And then lastly, so I connected with Serped because they produced an evacuation routes map for the South Coast region. And I wanted to see, okay, can we make one at the local level? And after my discussion with them, it was actually kind of great. They're like, we're going to assist you in creating a local level evacuation routes plan. They've already created the data. So that's kind of an ongoing project that I need to touch base on, but I thought I'd just share, something helpful. Evacuation routes, I feel like, are something we're all always wondering, do we have them designated? Do we have an official?
So wasn't that itemized in the hazard mitigation plan?
Yes, yeah.
Right.
So this is hitting a couple points.
Were the routes laid out in the hazard mitigation plan?
No, it just said we need them.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely a great ongoing kind of small project. And then that's all I have for the assistant planners report. We don't have any correspondence.
Okay.
do we have minutes? I couldn't find them.
So the minutes aren't ready just because they just weren't able to. I'll bring them for the next meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
So other business. So in the vast auditorium here, we have two candidates for election to the planning board, and I'd like to invite you up to introduce yourselves. Maybe ask questions or have us ask you questions.
After tonight's meeting, both you want to still apply? You haven't withdrawn?
Jared Pottinger. I live on Drift Road. Professional engineer, chemical engineer by trade. Currently employed in biotech industry, doing project management mostly, running global projects. So.
Thanks for having us. My name's Roz Underwood. I'm from Westport. I own One Prospect Ave, and I've always just had an interest in what happens here in town. In my 41 years of knowing Westport really well, I've seen some things change, and working in real estate, I really want to focus however I can, if I'm elected onto the planning board, and kind of preserving what makes Westport different and special to me and a lot of the people from here. But hopefully Jared and I at some point can both join. We'll see how things go, but thanks for having us.
Okay, any questions from the board? Like,
I do want to, I'm glad both of you are interested in this position. It'll probably take both of you to replace Mark, maybe 3 or 4 to replace Mark. But I had, Mr. Chair, been in touch quite a bit with our other board member, Manny Soares. And at one point he said he wanted to resign. And I was in the midst of trying to get a letter signed to the town clerk to that effect, but my last conversation with him, he changed his mind. And so I think that's unfortunate, but you know, that's his choice, unless I guess there may be other options if he can't attend meetings, but we don't know that yet. I'm not sure when he goes to trial, but so having a second opening is right now problematic. Now Manny may change his mind again, but that's where it stands as of the last time I talked to him.
Thank you for that. I think it's unfortunate what's happened with Manny. I think Manny's been, when he's been able to come, has been good on the board, been a contributor to what we're doing here. And it's just too bad what's happened and what's happening. I would like to give you folks another opportunity to speak to the audience, because we have a vast television audience, and not just to us. So if you'd like to make your appeal out to the public, that would be.
Just you probably want to look at.
Coming from Westport, my experience has, been very fortunate in the fact that I get to enjoy everything here in Westport. I went to the high school. I have a lot of friends from town, and been able to see Westport in all the 4 seasons and the river, and it's a beautiful place. I think the planning board has an opportunity when applications are coming through to review and hopefully guide people to do what they want to do, and make suggestions in an effort to preserve what makes this town great. But I think my hope is to do a great job of informing the residents, the voters, the taxpayers here of what's happening and get them involved. Just in the last few weeks, I think this is true for Jared too. We've gotten to know some of you, some of the select board members and candidates, and I think there's a younger group of people who want to get involved in managing this town and not changing what you guys have been able to do, but keep that keep these positions occupied with people who care about the town. I also look forward to creating a little bit more transparency, the way that I've noticed, at least between social media with the select board member Jake McGuigan. I think he does a great job, regardless of what you think of his policies or him. I think he informs people, and I think that's helpful. So that's something I think that the planning board would benefit from too, just so people understand what it is you do here and the staff, and just making them aware. If they have concerns, these meetings are a great opportunity for people to understand and participate. So I think it's also worth noting this weekend on Saturday, there's Q&A information that's going to be available for everyone at the new high school at noon on the 28th. I think it's a good chance for people to talk to Jared and I, ask questions, and get to know who is on the ballot. So hopefully people can come to that too. Thanks.
Thanks, Ross. I don't know how to take his suggestion that younger people might be here. I'm still thinking about how I'm taking that, Ross.
That's why I let you go first, because I would have reached out. First, I wanted to thank the board for inviting me here tonight, and Roz as well for attending. I just want to say that, you know, as a professional engineer, as my background in, that's why I feel like I wanted to step up. I felt that this is the best way I could give back to the town, be able to use my professional experiences to help the town. Coming in, I've, have the opportunity in my career where I have the ability to have some more time to look at these things, and that's where I kind of decided to make this opportunity to run for planning board. I believe when a couple meetings ago in early January, around that time, you guys were giving Mark a hard time because no one had pulled papers and were really saying, well, if no one runs, we're just going to ask the select board to reappoint you. And that was kind of like, that was where I really started thinking about it, and then kind of been watching the meetings for quite a while and going through that and seeing how the process works. We have a great town it's very rurally diverse. We have good heritage from an agricultural, marine aspect, maritime aspect, and I think we need to really foster and control that and keep that. While some things, have changed or are going to change, I think we have the ability to control all that, and I think the planning board has a very big part of the future of Westport, and I think that's why it's so important to have these roles filled. And that's why it's good to have open dialogue around what those potentials are. So I also think that 2026 is a year for the master plan, and I think that is a big task for the town. It really can set our agenda for the next 10 years of where we want to go and what we want to do and how we want to, protect our current town as well as grow it from certain aspects. So I think the board has done a great job of trying to balance that, and I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good. Thank you, Eric.
Could I just say one thing to the two of you, regardless of which one ends up sitting here, or maybe both of you will be here, I think you will find it to be an extremely rewarding experience, and you can't get a board in town, my own humble opinion, with these are the three wise men right here. And really, we've had one woman who came who's very active in town politics, and I remember the evening she came before us, and she looked at us, she said, "You are the best board in town." Now maybe people in television land will take exception to that, but I take pride in the fact that these guys really, as you heard them in action tonight, they know a lot about how to administer the rules and regulations that we have, and they're always thinking ahead to how can we make adjustments that will better some of the issues that we face in this town, which are pretty formidable in many ways. So I just been so impressed with the dedication of these guys, and you'll learn a lot, and you'll bring a lot to the board, but primarily I think having this core group here will stand you in good stead. And don't worry about their age. Don't let that fool you. These guys are wise beyond their years.
Are you saying I'm old?
Yeah, that's two people now.
Well, I put myself in that group.
You are one of them.
Yeah.
Do you want a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair? Move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.